All right, welcome back to the big video for today. I'm really excited to teach you a technique that I rarely teach anyone, and it is called my black book technique, which is I've figured this out on my own. I actually found it out by accident, and it started out where I essentially was trying to remember people's names, and eventually came up with a technique that allowed me to walk up to a woman I'd never met before, say a couple of things, and then get her phone number without ever asking for her phone number. Like, she would just volunteer her phone number, and it worked about 75% of the time that this would happen. So I'd never even have to put myself out there at all, not even in the slightest bit. So it was a really powerful technique, and I'm excited to teach it to you now. So I originally got this idea. I have a really bad memory personally. So or at least I used to have a really bad memory. I'm getting better now. But ultimately, I have this fear that I'm going to forget people's names, and I often did forget people's names, where I would meet somebody and literally like 4 seconds after they said their name, I forget their name. So I was like, man, I really got to get this thing under control here. So what I did is, instead of there's a lot of different devices you can use. You can repeat their name 3 or 4 times. That seems to work pretty well. But what I heard that Bill Clinton for a while was using this technique where he would write people's names down in a little book. And so what I did was like, oh, that's a great idea. So I found a little thin book, a little black book, and I just kept it in my back pocket when I went out to bars, and with a little tiny pencil, and I'd meet people, and I'd take out my little black book, and I'd write their name down in the book. Well, in the beginning, this was really interesting. I had to test it out a little bit. I had to see how people would respond. I got some weird responses from some girls, like, "Are you writing a book or something?" Or why are you writing my name down? Things like that. And I had to figure out how to respond to those people. But eventually it was fine. I figured out the little responses piece by piece, and they'd say, I'd pull out and I'd say something specific, so I didn't get any sort of objections from them at all as they were sort of going through this process with me. So what I did was I sort of kept going. Then eventually I was like, man, I can't really remember these girls' names. Even though I wrote them down, I'd open the book up to figure out who they were, and I'd have 5 or 6 girls' names in there from that night at that bar. So I'd be like, well, crap, how am I going to remember who these people are? I didn't know who they were. So instead of just guessing, I was like, I have to write something down about these people. So I started going, okay, well, I'd write down their name, then I'd write something down about them. I'd write, Jamie, black hair, works at recording studio, right? And then the next one would be like, Franny, blonde hair, student from Switzerland, right? So I'd write all these things down so I could remember. And I was like, I wonder if I can use this as an opportunity to do what's called qualifying. So qualifying is where essentially you ask a girl specific questions, and she answers them, and in the process of answering these questions, she starts to sell herself to you, like try to tell you why that you should like her, and then after that, if you just accept her for what she says, then she's attracted to you, which is really crazy, but it works really well. So instead of coming out and just saying that, I wondered if I could integrate this little black book that I was using to get them to qualify themselves, and the result of this sort of question that I had in my attempts to do this became a massive amount of surprising, insane success with this technique. So I'll show you. I went back to my old house recently and actually got a hold of my first black book. It's taped together. You can see it. It's like really old. It's missing about 75% of the pages in here, and I had a bunch that fell out while I was doing this. It's just falling to pieces. And I used a bunch of books after this. I probably went through about 5 or 6 of these books. And in the beginning of this book, you can see I'm just writing down people's names, and then and then I'm writing down things about them. So I'm writing down, I did it to guys and to girls. So I'd write down, Jason. I'm not even sure what I wrote there. Sorry. Let me see a couple more. Arwen, awesome hair, open eye. So I'm not sure where that was. Someone there at a place called Open Eye, I think. Courtney, Matt's girlfriend. So here's Matt, has a sailor tattoo. So I would write down guys and girls both. And then you'll see a specific time in here when you'll notice that I started using a different technique. And it started out right around, let's see, right around here, from this one. And this girl's name is, I'm going to cover up her phone number, but this girl's name is Amy. So Amy wrote in here, so I said, look, maybe I can qualify these girls, so let me try that out. So I would go, first I was like, well, what's your name? And they would say, oh, my name is Amy, right? So then I'd go, okay, and I'd pull out my book and my pencil, and I'd go, I'm really bad with names, so I hope you don't mind, I'm going to write your name down. So I'd pull open to a page and I'd write down Amy. And then I'd go, I could write down that you're wearing black shoes, but you're going to change your shoes, and if I see you again, I won't remember who you are. So why don't I do this? Why don't I write down something about you that I can remember? So what do you think are your 3 most positive dominant qualities? What would number 1 be, right? So I started writing this stuff down. And this is, by the way, what are your 3 most positive dominant qualities is the questions qualifier, which I teach in the book, in the Tao of Badass. So I'd say that. She'd respond back with her answer. Oh, I'm so-and-so and so-and-so. I'm this and this and this. And I'd write that down, and then I'd put it in my back pocket and say, cool. And she didn't know this, but at that time, she had just sold herself to me. And because she had done that, now I have sort of the green light to push forward with rapport and continue the interaction. But then I realized that if I handed her the book, that she would do something phenomenal with this. I didn't expect it at all. And the first one that happened, I was blown away. I looked at it, and I got it back. She handed it back to me, and I was like, and she wasn't even looking at me funny. She wasn't like, hey, gave you my number in there, So she writes, number 1 was responsible, was her number 1 quality, The second one is spontaneous. And the third one is her phone number written in here. And she wrote another one with her email address. So I got this back, and I looked at it, and I said, what just happened here? I knew that something amazing had just happened, but I didn't even ask her for her phone number. I just said, what are your 3 most positive dominant qualities? And I gave her the pencil and gave her the book and said, why don't you write that down? Or why don't you write it down right there so I can remember who you are? And then I said, oh my God, it was amazing that I got that, so I tried it again. And here's another one. Hannah, same thing. Feisty, vicious, serious, phone number, and email address. The same thing again. Yurli, another girl. Phone number. Didn't even write anything else down. Victoria, a couple things in here. Russian, blah, blah, phone number. And I just was blown away. I kept getting all these different girls' phone numbers without asking for any of them. And so I realized that this worked really well. So I got another black book that didn't have any other names in it. And I started it from scratch, and I'd hand it to people, and I just got number after number. I mean, the girls would open the book and see that I had 50 phone numbers in there of other girls who did the same thing. But because I said already that I was bad with names, and I wanted to make sure I could remember her name, that she had a reason for me to do this. It wasn't like I was trying to collect phone numbers or anything. So it didn't tip off any triggers in her mind. In fact, I would hand her the book on the wrong page sometimes, and it was already full on both sides with different girls' phone numbers. I would hand her it there, and then she would have to flip to the next page to find a spot to write her name in with her phone number. And what this would do, essentially, is it would show her that I have a ton of options for women, and it would spike the attraction like crazy. I thought in the beginning that it might actually make her go, oh, you have a lot of girls' numbers, you're just, you don't need to talk to me, or what about these other girls? And a couple of girls did do that. They did respond back with that kind of, whoa, look at all these girls' numbers in here. And I just said, yeah, I'm really bad with names. I would totally ignore the fact that they all gave me their numbers. I would just say, yeah, I'm really bad with names, so I have to do this for everybody, So I'd have, and it was important that I had guys and girls' names in there too. The guys I never did the, what are the 3 most positive dominant qualities to the guys. I just, got their name and wrote something down about them at the end. But for the girls, it would have all their numbers. So they'd go through when they saw this book, and they'd see a whole bunch of people's names, but all the girls would have their phone numbers down. And it all be in different girls' handwriting. So it was a phenomenal technique that I used. Again, that's the black book technique. Very, very, very powerful technique, and I've used it. I used it for about, 6 months before I had to really stop using it because I was leaning on it like a crutch. I would go out and I would have my black book with me, and I would just use the black book technique all night, and I'd get 20 phone numbers that night going to 3 different bars. And I just was leaning on it too much, and I didn't want to do anything else. So I stopped doing it so that I'd force myself to try other stuff. But it's one of the most powerful techniques that I've used. I hope you can use this, and I hope you can see great success with it. I also want to go into something now that I have something special to offer you, to show you, and I hope that you think about this and consider it. I've been sort of going through and giving you a lot of information for free, and I think it's great, and I will happily do that, forever if I can, as long as I possibly can. And at the same time, I would be giving this away for free to everybody if I could make a living doing that, but I can't. So of course I have to sell my books and everything to do that, to sort of support myself and to continue on. If you've learned a lot from this, and you're this far already, I mean, you've been with me for a while now, and I want to really just give you something that I think you'll like a lot. Instead of charging you straight up $97 for the Tao of Badass, I'd really like you to get it. So here's what I would like to do for you. I'd like you just to make me an offer. If you look below, you'll see a selection of different prices that you can pay for the Tao of Badass Ultimate Badass package. Go ahead and pick whichever one you want, and just select it, and I'll give you the Ultimate Badass package for that price. Just whatever you think it's worth to you, mixed together with whatever you can afford at the moment. If you have a lot, you can give, great. If not, no big deal. You can only pay less. That's okay. I understand. But I just really wanted to give you an opportunity to sort of make me an offer on this, and choose your price point here, and choose what you would want, and what you'll get the same thing. You'll get the Ultimate Badass package either way. And I've like I said, I'm happy to give you this information for free as long as I possibly can. But if you can dive in and really take the next step, I'd really appreciate it if you could. And I think that you would, I know that you would gain knowledge that you've never experienced before in your entire life. So please go ahead and take your time now. Choose a selection from below, and go ahead and click and grab a copy of the Ultimate Badass package, which is the Tao of Badass, the 4 bonus books, the audio commentary, and the first day of Hacking Attraction, my live seminar. You'll get all of that for whatever price you want to pay for it down there. And I'll see you on the other side. You'll be a full-fledged member at that point, which would be great. And I can help you in sort of a more intimate setting, responding back and forth to your posts and your questions in the members area that you automatically get access to whenever you sign up. So go ahead and do that now. Choose one. This offer runs for 48 hours, so after tomorrow night, at midnight tomorrow night, so I guess 11:59 tomorrow night, this offer will be closed. So take advantage of it now, and you won't ever see this again. So definitely check it out and take care of it and jump on board. And I really appreciate you being here to listen to everything I've done so far. And like I said, I'm very honored to be able to give you the things that I've given you for free so far. And I'd really appreciate it if you jump in and take the dive. So go ahead and do that. There's tons of more techniques like the Black Book technique here, as well as really deep and powerful emotional confidence shifts that I can give you. So do that now, and I will see you tomorrow in the next video. And if when you click the button below, I'll see you in a special members only video on the other side.